Before you listen to this, I need you to understand something. This isn't just another spooky story to tell around a campfire. This is real. I lived through it, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. My name is Ingrid, and I live in a small town called Lillehammer in Norway. And this is my story. I used to be the kind of person who didn't take anything seriously, especially when it came to the supernatural. Ever since I was a kid, I laughed off any mention of spirits or demons, thinking it was all just made-up nonsense. I'd watch horror movies without flinching, and when my friends got scared, I'd make fun of them. There's no such thing as demons, I'd say. You're all just being paranoid. As I got older, I became even more skeptical. At 18, I felt fearless, always challenging things that others found terrifying. My friends and I would get together on weekends, hang out, and sometimes do these dares to prove how brave we were. One time, we even went to an old, supposedly haunted forest just outside of town, daring whatever spirits might be there to come out and show themselves. Of course, nothing happened, or at least that's what I thought. One night, we were all hanging out at my place. It was a typical Friday. Everyone sitting around, drinking and talking about the dumbest things. Somehow the conversation turned to supernatural stuff. One of my friends mentioned a story they'd heard about someone getting possessed after messing around with dark things. Everyone laughed, but I took it a step further. If demons are real, why don't they just come and prove it? I said, half joking. I'm right here. Do your worst. Looking back, I don't know what I was thinking, but at the time, it just felt like another joke, another way to show everyone that there was nothing to be afraid of. I had no idea that I was inviting something into my life that I couldn't control. In the days that followed, I started feeling different. It was subtle at first. I was quieter, more distracted. I'd sit alone, staring off into space, which was weird for me. I was always the loudest, the one cracking jokes and keeping the conversation going. But now I felt off. When my brother Lars asked if everything was okay, I just shrugged it off, saying I was fine, just tired. Then the nightmares started. At first I didn't say much about them, just that I was having trouble sleeping. But one night, I woke up screaming. Lars ran to my room and I was thrashing around, my face twisted in terror. It took him a while to wake me up, and when I finally did, I was shaking, my heart racing. I didn't want to tell him what I dreamed about. It was too terrifying, too real. So I just kept saying, it was nothing, just a stupid dream. But it wasn't just a dream. The nightmares kept coming, and each time they got worse. I stopped sleeping altogether, staying up all night with the lights on. I started avoiding my friends, which was totally out of character for me. And then I began talking to myself, or at least that's what Lars thought. One night, he overheard me in my room, whispering. At first, he thought I was on the phone, but when he listened closer, he realized I wasn't talking to anyone. I was mumbling, saying things I didn't understand, like I was in a trance. He opened the door, and I looked up at him with this blank expression, like I didn't even recognize him. Then just as quickly, I snapped out of it and told him to leave me alone. Things only got worse from there. I started getting these weird bruises and scratches on my arms and legs, like I'd been in a fight, but I didn't know where they came from. I'd wake up with new marks every morning, but I had no memory of how they got there. My parents were worried, but I refused to see a doctor, insisting that I was fine, even though it was clear I wasn't. Then, one night, something happened that I'll never forget. I was lying in bed, trying to sleep, when I felt something cold and heavy press down on my chest. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It was like something was holding me down, pinning me to the bed. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I don't know how long it lasted, but when it finally let go, I was drenched in sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. After that, I started hearing voices. At first, they were just whispers, barely audible, but soon they got louder, more insistent. They'd tell me things, terrible things, and I couldn't block them out no matter how hard I tried. I started talking back to them, begging them to leave me alone, but they wouldn't. The voices were always there, always just on the edge of my consciousness, waiting for me to let my guard down. The worst part was that no one else could hear them. Lars would come into my room and find me arguing with something he couldn't see, and I could tell it scared him, but I didn't care. I was too far gone to care about anything other than making the voices stop. It all came to a head one night. I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling when I felt that same cold, heavy presence again. This time, it was stronger, more malevolent. It pressed down on me, squeezing the air from my lungs, and I knew I was in serious trouble. I tried to fight it, but I couldn't move. All I could do was lie there, paralyzed with fear, as the voices in my head grew louder and louder. Finally, something snapped inside me. I started thrashing, screaming, trying to break free from whatever was holding me down. Lars burst into my room, and I could see the terror in his eyes as he tried to hold me down. I was screaming, saying things that didn't make any sense, things that weren't even in my own voice. It was like something else had taken over, something dark and twisted that wanted to hurt me. I don't remember much of what happened after that. I was in and out of consciousness, my mind a blur of fear and pain. I remember a priest coming to our house, performing rituals and prayers, but it all felt like a dream, something distant and unreal. When I finally came back to myself, I was exhausted, drained, like I'd been through a war. But the worst part was that even though the priest said the rituals had worked, I knew I wasn't the same. Whatever had happened to me, whatever had attached itself to me, had left a mark that would never go away. I'm still here, still alive, but I'm not the girl I used to be. I'm quieter now, more withdrawn, and I'm terrified of being alone. I still hear the whispers sometimes, late at night when I'm trying to sleep, and I still have nightmares, terrible, vivid nightmares that I can't escape from. So if you're ever tempted to mess around with things you don't understand, take it from me, don't. I thought it was all a joke, and now I'm living with the consequences. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't challenge things you can't see because you might not like what happens when they answer.